Hello everyone and welcome to another cloudy little tutorial. Today we are going to learn how to make this octopus. Now obviously I chose these colors for June, but if you'd like to use any other colors for it, this tutorial will show you how to use any 5 colors. So we're going to use a 5mm crochet hook, scissors, some stuffing, a yarn needle, and of course, we can't forget our yarn. Today we're using pink, blue, and white yarn in a worsted weight. If you need help with anything shown in this tutorial today, I do have linked below every single stitch, every technique used in this video. There will be an individual beginner-friendly tutorial linked below if you need any help. Okay, let's get started. So we're starting with blue. We're going to make a magic ring, chain 1, and then we're going to do 6 single crochets into our ring. So let me just speed through this real quick. Again, if you need help with any stitch or technique used in this video, just check out the description below for links to everything used. They're very beginner-friendly tutorials if you need any help. So close up your ring and you're going to slip stitch to your first stitch to join it, and we're going to tie off. Time to switch colors. Okay, here I am joining my pink yarn onto my blue right here. You can use whatever method you prefer. I prefer the, make a little slip stitch and then just do a little chain to lock it onto your project. Do it, whatever works for you. So now we're going to increase around for a total of 12 stitches. So we're going to do 2 single crochets in every stitch. So we're doubling our size right now. So yeah, just do 2 single crochets in every stitch around. It will leave us with 12 stitches. Just speeding through that right here. Okay, now we're going to slip stitch to join and we're going to tie off our pink yarn. Okay, join your white yarn. And now we're going to do 1 single crochet and 1 increase all the way around. So you're going to do 1 single crochet, and then in the next stitch you're going to do 2 single crochets in the same stitch, 2 increase, and you're going to follow that same pattern around. You should have 18 stitches once the round is done. Just speeding through that right here, and then you are going to slip stitch to your first stitch to join it and tie off. Now we're adding our pink yarn back on. We're going to do decreases for this round. So this round is going to be 1 single crochet and 1 decrease. You can use whatever method of decrease you want to. I'm going to link a tutorial to the kind that I used here, but most decrease methods should work. So yeah, 1 single crochet and then 1 single crochet decrease all the way around. You should have 12 stitches by the time you're finished. I'm going to slip stitch here to join. Now this is a little bit different. Do not cut off your pink yarn. So we're doing a second round in pink, and I'm doing the same thing all over again. 1 single crochet and 1 decrease all the way around. But this time we're going to end with 8 stitches. So just continue that around in your pink still. 1 single crochet, 1 decrease until we get to the end. We're going to slip stitch and tie off now. Okay, so we finally made it to our last color change. I just stuffed my loose ends right into our little bowl that we have going on. Now I'm going to show you attaching the blue yarn because we're going to do things a little bit differently. So we're going to work this round in the front loop only. so just the front loop. Normally you go into both loops to work your stitches. We're working in just the front loop. If you need further explanation, please check out the tutorial that I linked in the description. So after you attach your yarn to the front loop only, we're going to chain 11. Once you've chained 11, we're starting in the second chain from the hook. In the back loop, slip stitch your way down. There should be 10 slip stitches. Just work in the back loop. If that's too awkward for you, it is a little bit more awkward, you can just slip stitch down normally. It's not going to make that big of a difference. It just gives a smoother, more finished appearance if you work into the back loop as you slip stitch your way down the chain that you just made. Now that we're reaching the end, we're going to slip stitch in that front loop that we started our chain from, then slip stitch over to the front loop of the next stitch, and then you're going to chain 11 again. If you're noticing a pattern here, well, that's great because we are going to continue this around. So once again, slip stitch down your chain, starting in the second chain from the hook, and working into the back loop only, or just work normally if that's easier for you, whatever you want to do. Now again, we are going to slip stitch into the front loop that we started our chain from. So continue that around. You're going to slip stitch into the front loop of the next stitch, chain, slip stitch down, and then slip stitch into that same stitch, and then slip stitch over to the next one. And that's going to make your tentacles. You should have 8 by the time you're done. Once we have all of our tentacles completed, we're going to have to join and get to the underside of our project to close it up. So you could probably just slip stitch to the underside, but I like to do it this way because it leaves a smoother finish. Slip stitching regularly could leave a little gap. So I go into the stitch that my first tentacle was worked into. I come up from behind, grab the yarn, and pull it to the underside. Hopefully that made sense the way that I explained it. And then I just do a little slip stitch to, or chain, or whatever you want to call it, to kind of lock it in place, and that just gives a smooth finish. So you can't see a seam or where it's joined or anything. So now we're working on the underside of our project. It's time to stuff now if your loose ends did not fully stuff your octopus. Just add a little bit of polyfill or whatever other stuffing material you have. You don't need to overstuff, but just make sure it's enough to like hold its shape. So now we're going to be working in the back loop that we left behind from our previous round. So our previous round we were working in the front loops only. So there should be a visible pink single loop round on the underside here. So we're working into the back loop that we left behind in our previous round, and we're just going to decrease around. I will have a tutorial linked for the method of decrease that I'm using, but you can use any decrease method you'd like. Just single crochet decrease around and close up this remaining hole that we have here. I'm just speeding through it. It's really awkward to work it like this, but you'll get it. It's the bottom. It doesn't need to be that neat. Slip stitch to join and tie off, leaving a long enough tail to tie in. Now here comes my favorite method to tie in loose ends. I am someone who hates loose ends. So with anything that's plush, the way I do it is I just thread my yarn needle. You can see me struggle with that a little bit there. Maybe I should make a video with tips on how to do that. I'm going back and forth through the closing just to make sure it's totally tight, but that's optional really. And then the way I tie in my loose ends on anything plush is I just run it back and forth through the stuffing. Just go between stitches, and make sure you go in the same hole that you came out of, or else your yarn is going to hook on the outside, and just run it through a few times. It'll tangle up and it'll hold really securely. No knots needed. And that's it. We finished. If you want a jellyfish, just, you know, smooth it down a little bit. There you have a jellyfish. You know, if they're a little short, just stretch them out a little bit. Curl them up. You can really fiddle with it. If you wanted to, you could even starch this in a particular shape, whatever you want to do with it. You could also even add eyes, or you could turn it into a keychain. Just put your hook in there and grab a piece of yarn or whatever you want to use, pull it through, tie a knot, and bam, you have a keychain. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and leave me a comment about it. I will do my very best to answer everything. Thank you so much for watching, and if you want to see much more tutorials like this, check out my other videos and subscribe.